Hello there, and welcome to the Rapid Reaction Podcast here on HawkFanatic.com. I am your host, Rob Howe, joined by half of our team. Our other half is at a wedding. You guys with these weddings on the weekends, man, we're going to have to throw a flag on whoever is scheduling these things. But Jordan is free today. Jordan Canzeri joins me. Kind of a bummer, Jordan. We'll get into a lot of this now, but how are you doing overall? How was your week?
Not too bad. I gotta say it wasn't a good weekend overall for me with high school football. My team lost. I went and watched that game. But one of my old coaches who coached me in high school, he was on the other end, on the other team, coaching his son, who's the senior quarterback. So it was at least good to see him. But yeah, it was a rough game. And then, yeah, today was pretty rough too. So other than that, everything's good. And myself, I actually have a wedding too today. So another fall wedding. But just after this, started getting ready. So, yeah, busy one.
I got to think these people aren't football fans, the folks that are, or at least college football fans. Maybe they're NFL fans.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I don't think so because, yeah.
All right, man. Well, we'll get into some of the numbers here in a minute. I'll read through some stats, but just your overall thoughts on this game. You know, we call it a rapid reaction. Just kind of what's your reaction to what you watched today?
I would say we offensively just again have things we got to work on. Our offensive line at some point stood out, but towards the end, it definitely made it hard for Petrus to, settle in the pocket to be able to make some of the throws. But then at the same time, Petrus, he's made some good throws, but there was a bunch he missed as well. So that's something again that it's tough, but it's just a part of the game. And running the ball wise, I would say it was a little iffy. I just think we got to figure some things out on the line. But other than that, we made some big plays. Tight end, young buck. What's
Luke
his
Lachey?
name? Lachey coming plays, and they need to utilize him and Laporta together to be that dual threat with tight ends. And because that's the thing, Reganey definitely stepped up and made some big plays, but it's tough when you don't have that dude you can just throw it up to, and at least if he's one-on-one, then that's a win for you. So that's just something that is a disadvantage, but Michigan's a good team, can't deny that, and they definitely showed it today. But defensively, I'd say a little bit of the same. I thought we'd do a little bit better versus the run. I know we lost Johnson, which is a big loss too, but overall, I know there are a lot of things to look over on the drawing board, but there were definitely some moments.
Yeah, and it just again credit to the Iowa kids. They kept fighting until the end. They did. I mean, they played hard until the final horn, and they gave themselves a chance there in the second half when I think a lot of people probably checked out and thought they didn't have a chance. But again, I think my overall impression of this game was coming in, I felt like Iowa had to play a clean game, a good game, and Michigan maybe had to be a little bit off. And that didn't happen. Iowa, some really costly penalties that we'll talk about. And I'm not going to harp on the officiating. It was not good today. I thought there were questionable calls, but I don't think it decided the game. I will say that, but certainly not. There were a few that didn't go Iowa's way, and being on the sidelines in that first half, Kirk was not happy with the clipping call. I haven't seen it again yet. I was at the game for the first half, so I didn't see it. What were your impressions of that call?
Definitely was not a penalty to me. And then later when we had the personal foul, when the Michigan player clearly has his arm wrapped around our center as well, when they both went to the ground, that's just, again, one of those calls that sadly is just like what is going on with football. We're supposed to be physical and dudes throwing each other on the ground, and that's a personal foul when it wasn't even that like aggressive. So that call to me was a little off as well. But the one down the end, even though Peach just threw the ball a little short and we got stopped on that fourth down, if anything, that could have been a pass interference on the defense for holding. That's something where some receivers also just know to kind of do when you're on the goal line or red zone, to kind of lean in and then try to pull away just to try to get that holding penalty. But for them to call it on offensive when he didn't even go towards the defender that was actually defending our person who was getting the ball thrown to him, it's just that call also puzzled me too. So I agree that the refereeing today was a little iffy, but again, like you said, it didn't really like cost the game, because it's just something that we have to work on. I didn't even know some of these stats, but during the game when they were showing that we were last in all of FBS and red zone touchdowns and 33% or something like that. And then, we're in the red zone again and we don't get the fourth down, which, as you said, we were putting ourselves in a great position. Only would have been down if we were able to score during that drive. Obviously, we're only down a touchdown. So definitely tough. And again, I know there's a lot to look over in the film room, but as you also alluded to earlier, definitely proud to see the guys just fight to the end.
Yeah, and you're talking about the pass interference or whatever the heck it was on Arlen Bruce when he was inside in the slot there. I don't get that. That was a no call in my mind. And the Logan Jones was a pancake block. It just he that's a block. I'll be interested to look and see the clipping call, because again, I haven't seen that, and I didn't see the hold call on Jennings Dunker either in that same drive towards the end of the first half, where Caleb Johnson popped that long run and they brought that one back for holding. I didn't catch that one either, and I couldn't see. And there was the Torrey Taylor went down on a punt late in the first half too. And Kirk seemed okay with the explanation on that one. Again, I didn't see the replay, but maybe somebody got pushed into him or something like that. But he was not happy with the holding and the clipping calls. And he let the officials know about it.
Oh,
was not happy.
Yeah, I mean, I even on the TV, there's one point where I forget what call it was, but I was just looking at my man in the white hat, and it looked like he even knew he was in the wrong when Ferentz was going off. I was like, yep, y'all know. But yep, tough one.
It was interesting. Well, let's start. We'll go to the beginning of the game. Iowa wins the coin toss. I think smartly goes on defense first. You want to set the tone with your best unit. But Michigan marches down the field and scores on that first drive. That was big, man, because I think if you can get off the field there and hold them to a field goal or nothing there, that kind of sets the tone. I almost felt like, again, there's a lot of game left to play, but that was just not the start you want to get off to.
No. The running backs, I think Edwards and Quorum, they ran the ball very patiently, took their time behind their line, and then as soon as they'd see the hold, then they would burst through. So they ran the ball efficiently. They were calling the right plays. And that first drive, they just moved down the field and made it seem a little easy. Our defense picked things up. And then again, to hold a Michigan offense that's as electric as they are, to only 3 touchdowns, to the last touchdown that came real late, beforehand, where the game kind of already seemed like it was over once we got those 3 sacks. That's a little different with in their field position, because we kind of had to go for it there, but just 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals, that's doing a real good job against that team. And then again, that first drive was something where they called the right plays, they moved smooth, and to me, I'm gonna just call it a fluke versus our defense. But after that, our defense made stops and definitely improved on stopping the run and different things later on in the second half. So it's just tough where, as you said, you got to play clean when you're going against a top team like Michigan, and their team this year is real good. And just little things that we got to look back on the film and go over. But, it's always a loss is going to be a tough one, no matter what the difference is in score.
I credit Michigan's offensive line, man. That is a good offensive line. And I credit Quorum and Edwards are really good, but there were some, they don't get hit until they're a couple yards downfield and they have time to look for where the opening is. And that's O-line play.
Yep. Oh yeah. They had a very good line, and even some of the announcers saying they had some guys that were brought back, lost a few, but they even believe that this was a more athletic offensive line for Michigan for the past few years. And yeah, they showed it for sure. And that's something where going to have to watch out for the rest of the Big Ten, because Michigan definitely has been proving themselves to be a elite offense, and defensively, their front today was the one side that I was unsure of. I know that they have a real good secondary, good linebackers, but that defensive line stepped up, especially right at the end, that, bullying our right tackle, Colby, I think.
Yeah.
And that's tough. But for me, there was something at the end that also kind of rubbed me the wrong way in a little way. And it's little mistakes, and it's nothing to like bash them or anything. But as a running back, there were plenty of times where I would sit and still with, even though I had a route, or even though I had like a check for a linebacker and then release, talking with Jake Rudock, we'd be like, oh, it's 3rd and 15, stay in. And even with CJ did some of the same when we had, a long ways for the first down, and it's just kind of that communication, like, oh, I'm gonna stay in, because as a running back, it's 3rd and 20 something. You're not catching a crossing route 4 yards deep and most likely getting that first. So the last 2 plays, I really wanted the running back to stay in. I thought they were a little too quick to release to their routes. And again, in that position, you're not getting the ball. So that's the time where you stay in and help your guys, especially when you see that one struggling. So that's something that, again, I hope that they touch on in film when they go over it, because that's, again, where you can help each other out and make it easier on the quarterback and the line.
Yeah, and I think Gavin Williams is probably the best at analyzing that and doing the right thing. You got the true freshman and Caleb Johnson, and LaShawn is, a 2nd or 3rd year guy. So that's stuff that they have to learn, but those are great points, and they run the ball well. So it's like you were saying, man, it seems like it's Murphy's law with this offense. If there's something that can go wrong, it will. There'll be protection, and then Petrus will miss the throw, or there'll be a guy open, and then the protection breaks down. It's just that it just seems like it's so hard right now to get into a rhythm.
Yep. All about rhythm, because you see the glimpses, you see the big plays. Laporta made some great athletic plays as a tight end. And, we, again, not having like that deep threat, big guy weapon, we still do have some weapons on offense to utilize. So as you said, when dudes are open, you got to make that throw. And when, we know it's on the line, especially when Petrus has to make a throw, we got to leave him off the ground. And for that last drive to go 3 sacks in a row, that's real tough to see, just because it's a hard way to end the game, even though, again, they scored, we got the ball back and scored again as well. But at that point, we already knew the result. So it's tough. As I said, a lot to look at the film review, but again, like the glimpses are there. So if they can figure some things out on the line and maybe shift some people, who knows what could happen. But definitely not giving up on our offense yet.
Throw some numbers at you guys first. We talked about Blake Corum. Seeing him physically on the field today, he is put together. I was talking to a guy from Michigan who said he added like 10 or 12 pounds, and it's just, his legs are huge. He's got big arms. He's just like a bowling ball. He finished with 133 yards and the late touchdown on 29 carries. Edwards had 5 carries for 29 yards. The receiver, Ronnie Bell, 2 for 26. On the Iowa side, I'll throw McCarthy in there too. McCarthy was 18 of 24 for 155 and a touchdown. And I wondered, the young guy coming in, inexperienced, first road start, if Iowa would be able to rattle him. His numbers don't jump off the page to him. to you, but he didn't make any mistakes, and that was big.
Yep, they made it where he had short throws, they had swing passes, screens, different things where he didn't attempt to go downfield that often. And so they made the play calls for him a little better as well. And it all helped when you have the offensive line that they do and the running backs that were making plays. So his whole offense definitely helped because he was never really in a position where he had to, kind of put everything on his shoulders.
And we see the benefits of a mobile quarterback on the touchdown throw he had, where he rolled out. We had pressure on him, but he kept the play alive. He was off schedule, and you can't cover everybody for forever. And you got to make that decision. Do you go after him? Does that leave the guy open in the back? And he made that play just by keeping the play alive with his legs.
Yeah, no, definitely. And when you go against mobile quarterbacks, your game plan is so different compared to one that isn't. And that's a win for the defense when you go against a quarterback who isn't mobile, because you don't have to worry about spying or keeping another extra defender in the box just in case of a scramble. So again, that's a benefit when you do have a quarterback that can move around the pocket and make some plays on his feet.
Finish up here with some stats. Petrus, 21 for 31, 246, and a touchdown. LaShawn Williams, 8 carries for 34 yards. Caleb Johnson, 12 for 32, as we talked about earlier. The big run called back. He had the touchdown on the ground. Lachey. Laporta, 5 catches for 24 yards. Lachey, 4 for 84 in the touchdown. Reganey, 4 for 55. Breck, 2 for 28. Arlen Bruce, who really has not been utilized the last 2 weeks, 2 for 7. Overall team stats, Michigan 327 total offense, Iowa 281, Iowa with 246 passing and only 35 on the ground. But remember, in college football, the sacks are subtracted from your rushing statistics. First downs, Michigan 24, Iowa 16, both 4 of 11 on third down. At the end, it was Michigan with 66 plays to Iowa's 55, but that was really lopsided in the first half. I think time of possession was like 21 minutes to 9 in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And that could have contributed to Iowa's defense wearing down a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, again, even when you look at some of those stats, you may think from even watching the game that it wasn't as close as it really was, but seeing it on the football line and just understanding different scenarios and then in placement and just reading some of those stats, the same. Michigan didn't blow us out and by those metrics. And again, if we were able to just make some of those plays and some of those penalties that really hurt us in big moments and just being better in the red zone, like, we could be a good team. And that's, again, what just going back continually to the film, looking things over and just adjusting weekly. And because, again, I do think we're improving over time, and there's just something that comes up. We just got to handle it and all those different flaws of ours. But again, I see a lot of good things and glimpses. So I just really hope coming next week, those things can fall together and they can prove what they're really capable of.
And they're going to need to, Jordan. This Illinois is not your father's Illinois anymore. Not you. I mean, the general father. The Illini are laying the wood to Wisconsin and Madison today. And then after that, you got to go to the shoe and play Ohio State. So Iowa doesn't have time to feel sorry for itself.
Yep. We got to, as we always say, no matter a win or a loss, you just put it in the box and move on to next week, because there is no time, especially with football, with each week being so important that every moment counts, every day counts. So they got to just go in tomorrow, watch the film, go over the things that they can and make adjustments, and just realize certain mistakes and where some things went wrong and where all the things that went great, and just move on and be prepared for Illinois. Because as you said, they are definitely not a team to look over.
No, and this Big Ten West is still there for the taking. Purdue goes to Minnesota today and wins. Nobody saw that one coming, the way Minnesota had been playing and the way Minnesota played at Michigan State last week. As we said, Illinois 34, Wisconsin 10 at Camp Randall. I'd like to know the last time that happened. So though you're talking about some of the main contenders there, and it's kind of like they're eating each other up a little bit here. If Iowa can figure this out, it's still there.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely still there. And, there's still plenty of potential to be carried and seen to win the West if we can win things through in our division. But yeah, it's something we got to take day by day and game by game.
Is there a simple fix? If there was, the coaches are smart enough to make the fix offensively, Jordan. But are there a few things you'd like to see or think could help?
Nothing that I could really put out there without really being in the film room with them and breaking things. Because I know our coaches have the wherewithal to be able to come back and just again adjust and be prepared for the next opponent. And as I said, we had potential and we had the opportunities today. We just had to execute. So rolling forward, I don't think that they need to, as you said, be like hard on themselves or feel too sorry, because they just got to make the simple changes. And even though I just said that there isn't anything that is simple or small or easy,
you start with the simple though, right? You start with those simple fundamental things and then build from there, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything is built upon fundamentals, but, as I said, with even our offensive line, I'm not sure if that was just a rough series for Colby. Maybe we'd like to switch some guys around, maybe move him into guard and whatnot. We don't know. But the point is that, there are some things that are definitely easier said than done when it comes to trying to game plan and make some certain adjustments. So like I said, not really, I don't have anything in particular unless I was really sitting there in the film room with them, but I'm going to trust them rolling forward.
Yeah. And you can't do anything about personnel at this point, they really miss Keegan Johnson. He's that threat down the field that they miss from the receiver core. And you can't, it's tough to manufacture shots down the field if you don't have guys that can get, and you mentioned it, Michigan's secondary is just really good. It's tough for good receivers, fast receivers, guys that can get downfield to beat them, let alone guys that maybe are more, for lack of a better term, possession type receivers. So gonna have to go back to the drawing board and see if they can design some things to maybe get Lachey and Laporta. They seem to be the playmakers at this point. We saw it with Fant and Hawkinson. It can be done. I'm not saying these guys are Fant and Hawkinson, but I think at this point in the season, you got to lean on your guy. At this point, who your playmakers are, who your dudes are, and you got to lean on them.
Yeah. Yep. Guys that are able to make big plays, they'll be put in those moments where they got to carry the team on their shoulders. So, as you said, both tight ends, they have the potential to make plays. So maybe we'll see rolling forward them do a lot more of play action drop offs to them, tight end screens. You really never know. But, I would like to see the ball in both of their hands a little bit more.
Yeah, no question. I think we've beaten this thing as much as we can beat it. I want to let folks know that support for the podcast comes from Systems Unlimited, celebrating 50 years of providing services to people living with disabilities and mental health needs throughout East Central Iowa. A list of their services and upcoming events can be found at sui.org. Thank you to Systems Unlimited for their sponsorship and everybody else who supports the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We got a night game next week in Illinois, so we may be a Sunday podcast again next week because it's going to be a late night for me in Champaign. So does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'll take sleep.
Yeah. So we'll probably hit you guys again Sunday morning next week. Hopefully Jovan doesn't have a wedding and Jordan doesn't have a wedding, and I know I don't have a wedding. So we'll be good to go. Thanks everybody for listening. Have a safe rest of your weekend and week, and we will be back to talk to you again